US Highway 380 is one of the most congested highways in the northern Dallas-Fort Worth area, serving cities like Frisco, Prosper, Aubrey, Krugerville, Denton, and McKinney, among others. It is one of the only east to west highways in northern DFW, especially in areas where there is massive growth and development ongoing. Now, what's going on, everyone? My name is CoolTitanium68, and on today's Automotive Wednesday video, we're going to give you an introduction to, the entirety of the US 380 projects, as well as just an overall of what's going to be going on right after this. Now, this highway expansion has been years in the making, and I'm not kidding on that. Both Collin and Denton counties have been going at, I wouldn't say concerningly fast rate for decades, but it had been growing fast enough that even some of the people now are just like, this should have been done 15 years ago. Nothing had actually been officially studied until summer of 2017. At this time, Collin County was starting to see explosive growth in cities north of US Highway, including cities like Prosper, Salina, McKinney, New Hope, and Princeton. Cities like Melissa had also seen explosive growth due to McKinney getting close to full build out. And cities like Farmersville, which sit along US Highway 380, but again farther away, are starting to now see some of this growth, as well as the western while the western half of Lake Lavon is starting to get fully built out. Now, through the back half of the 2010s, there'd be a total of 3 sets of public meetings for this corridor study. From April 26th to May 3rd of 2018, the first set of public meetings occurred where the Texas DOT would introduce this project and give a set of 5 alternative routes. Well, actually, no, this is where they would, this is where they would do 5 alternative routes. My bad. With McKinney in almost full build out and the amount of development along the current US Highway 380 in McKinney, they did come out with a couple of bypass loops around the northern edge of McKinney, as well as building out Spur 399, which is what would come off of Sam Rayburn Tollway east of US Highway 75. They did also add a bypass around Princeton, as well as one around Farmersville, and a far northern bypass around New Hope for one of the other loops. At the first public meeting, the Texas DOT would take residents' feedback and revise this said study. The second set of public meetings was held from October 4th to 11th of that same year. Now, with over 4,000 comments and surveys received from the first public meeting, 84% of the comments listed traffic congestion, safety, the pace of future developments, and a lack of other east to west routes as concerns along the existing alignment of US Highway 380. What they also concluded is that the expansion of US Highway 380 to a full highway had huge support versus doing a no build at a 3-to-1 ratio. And with that, 1,900 comments wanted to upgrade the existing alignment of US Highway 380. Residents in Prosper, Frisco, and McKinney preferred to upgrade the existing US Highway 380 alignment, with the towns of New Hope, McKinney, as well as Lower Crossing preferring a freeway north of the town limits, and no clear census for Fairview, Princeton, and Farmersville. Now, with that in mind, they refined the possibility alignment in this study. From the Collin-Denton County line up to about Coit Road, if I can get Google Maps up and loaded. So that would be right from about here to Coit Road. This would be just this would pretty much just stay on its own corridor. And as you can probably see, there's not really much built out along US Highway 380, and even in this development here, they've actually built it out far enough that they can build US Highway 380 without there being any problems. Now, between Coit Road and Farm Market 1827, there were a couple of different alignments. So for the green alignment, this would sit on the current section of 380 and would trench sections at the Tucker Hill and Stonebridge neighborhoods, as well as trenching 380 basically east of 75 all the way to State Highway 5. So for those of y'all that are wondering where are those neighborhoods, that is this neighborhood, this right over here would be trenched. And then pretty much this would all be surface level. And then from here to about Highway 5, so all of this would be trenched as well, to mitigate traffic concerns and noise. Now, the red alignment was made as a bypass on the north side of McKinney. And what they would do here is right at the Tucker Hill neighborhood. I went too far on Google Maps. So what they would do is at the Tucker Hill neighborhood here, they would, 380 would branch off, head north, and then would basically follow Bloomdale up to about here, where then they would build a bypass around. But the funny thing is, I think there is development already being built here, so I'm not 100% sure what's going to be going on, because it looks like they may have to bypass Irwin to the north if this is going on, because what they would do is, especially in this area here, the questions were, do we upgrade just Bloomdale altogether to a highway and then just come back down? Or do we bypass the state courts or the state jails to the north? And ultimately, they did decide to go to the north side. Now, on this alignment, basically from Bloomdale Farms, so that is somewhere around here. Well, this is that. So yeah, so right around this area here, up to just past Irwin, would all be trenched underground. If I remember rightly, looking at it again, that would be like a 350-foot right of way versus 500 feet for everything else. Now, as I said before, the red alignment would bypass the courthouse and jails to the north, as in there was too many impacts to the south. And as y'all can probably see, you've got like the tax assessor, you've got the Anchor Church, and I know they just built something here. It's not showing up on Google Maps because of course it won't. But so they decided to just do that there. Now, Spur 399's extension at that time would either be located on the west or east side, and pretty much that all depended on what side of the Trinity River floodplain would 380 ultimately merge back onto U.S. Highway 380, because the plan was either to stay to the west side and just upgrade Airport Road, or build a whole new thing on the east side, which it looks like what they'll probably do, and they'll just come around this way a little bit farther out so they can build out here and not worry about these warehouses that have been built recently. Now, after the second set of public meetings, the Texas DOT would come back with a third set of public meetings in May of 2019 to complete the Collin County feasibility study. With all the feedback, the DOT came back with recommendations to build the western split near the Tucker Hill neighborhood, with the eastern split on the west side of Trinity River and Spur 399 lying west of McKinney National Airport, as well as both of the Princeton and Farmers Loops being built to the north and south, respectively. Now, for Princeton, let me try and zoom out here. What they would do is they pretty much just bypass a lot of this current development. So right around here is where they would branch off, and then they would just stick right up to the north. They're not going to bypass this new neighborhood that's being built, but they pretty much just come around here, come down to the south, staying on the very west side of the floodplains, and then merge back up right around here before Lake Lavon. And then Farmersville will just branch off from about here and will just sit on the very east side and come back right around here. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but that's interesting. Doing this would increase sound levels, especially at the Tucker Hill, Stonebridge, and Heatherwood bridges, as well as the Triple Creek Baseball Academy. Now, to help with this sound, they did plan to build either a 12-foot or 20-foot tall sound barrier that would help lessen the amount of increased noise. Any of these build alternatives would cost anywhere from around $2 billion, with just building up the current route costing as much as 3.7. As y'all can see, just due to how much development is along 380, it's either you could either build the bypass route around the north side of McKinney, or basically almost double your budget and just upgrade and do so much land acquisition and relocations that, like, to stay on this current alignment. Because pretty much this whole thing here would have to be redone. All of this stuff would have to be there, and you have to buy land from Raytheon themselves to be able to build that stuff here. Like, there's so much that they would have to do that it's just not worth it at that point to build out with that. Now, with how much traffic was going on, the feasibility study was completed in about a year and a half. The Denton County feasibility study, however, would take a little bit more time. The feasibility study for Denton County started in spring of 2018, as they were collecting data through most of 2018 and parts of 2017. The first meeting was towards the end of 2019. Well, yeah, towards the end of January 2019. At this point, they came up with multiple routes, and this would bring in, like, again, multiple just different routes, ranging from starting farther north on the tollway and heading west to bypassing to the south and basically following Little Elm. Like, pretty much anywhere from here, like pretty much all of this area here was all fair game. Like, you could go as far north. There were parts that would have come right off the tollway, just come up here and just go this way. You'd have a thing here. You could also have a thing. You'd also follow what would be the Denton County outer loop up until about 420. I believe this is 423. Well, it's technically Sherman Drive, but I believe this is 420. Actually, no, this is 428 coming down to here on a 288. Or even bypassing to the south, like maybe building out farther south here, build a bridge, and then come out here. There was a lot of stuff going on there, and even I was like, why? But with most of them, as they would get closer and closer to Denton, most would use either all or some of Loop 288 as a bypass loop. Or they would use the existing route on I-35. Most of the other, like, alternative builds did use the 288 as a bypass loop, because you can't really, because like, how do I want to say this? Because like McKinney, there's a lot of development on there, and it's, again, small businesses. You got a church here. You got parts of Texas Women's you're gonna have to tear out. All of this development that's been built up that they would have to relocate and rebuild on. So, not a smart thing to do. With the COVID pandemic, this delayed the study for about 2 years. Instead of an in-person meeting, the second set of public meetings was moved to a virtual meeting scheduled for December 2nd of 2020. At this time, several projects were also in the planning stages that county residents should know about. Again, projects like the extension of Loop 288 to the west. So this would bring this back down to 380 and ultimately bring it around Denton Enterprise and connect up to, I believe this is Vintage Boulevard, where it would end. You also have the improvements to U.S. Highway 377, Farm to Market 2931, and Farm to Market 1385. Now, Farm to Market 2931 is Main Street. So this comes off of 380. On the very southeast, like kind of sitting on the southeast side of Aubrey near Providence Village. And we'll just go straight north. There stuff for that. And then 1385 would be this road here, which is in the planning stages basically to be rebuilt, coming probably all the way up to here. Not 100% sure, but again, it's something to keep it. It's something that Denton County residents have to keep an eye out on. Now, by this time, the DOT had already started work on the interim grade separation intersection project at 5 separate intersections. Now, with this ultimate build-out, there came 5 routes. Now, the blue route, which is the one they would ultimately decide on later, which we'll talk about, would lie basically along U.S. Highway 380 and then would use Loop 288 as a bypass around the city of Denton. Now, the yellow route would branch off at the DNT 380 interchange and would then head northwestward to Farm to Market 428. So what that looks like is it would start right about here, and at that time this stuff wasn't built, so it kind of just like snake around and would kind of bring its way up here, and then pretty much just fought, and then would come down to the south of Krugerville and then head straight west and connect back onto 428 from there, if I'm not mistaken. Now the purple route, again, is very similar, but to that yellow route, but instead of branching off at DNT and 380, this would actually follow the Dallas North Tollway northward and would start at Frontier, and then and probably what they would have done nowadays is they would have just came around here and then just come straight up, come south, and do that again. Now, that orange route is actually a slightly different route than both the purple and the yellow. But what this would do is, instead of starting off at Frontier Parkway like the yellow route does, it actually starts a lot farther northward up here, where right now the Collin County outer loop is. And this would pretty much follow the Denton County loop. And then the orange route would also, if I'm correct, would also go farther south. What it would do is, instead of going on the north side, which eventually that is what the teal route would do. So like the purple and yellow route, this orange route would start here and pretty much follow that, and then would come down to the south of Krugerville and follow that to 428. Now, the teal route would follow pretty much what that orange route would do, but it followed more of what the proposed outer loop would do, where it would bypass Aubrey to the north, and then it would just take FM 428 all the way farther down to 288 instead of going all the way to 35. Now, because Denton County is growing quicker than it did before, it would take just over a year to come back with their third and final meeting. Now, this set of in-person public meetings would take place on November 30th and December 2nd, 2021, with the virtual portion ending on January 19th, 2022. With the feedback from that second meeting, they would come back with the blue route as the recommended route, and then what they would actually do is they would modify that teal route that they had built and use it as a recommendation for the future study of the outer loop. So, like what they've done before, what they'll do is they'll start right over. I think they'll start at Champions Parkway once this intersection's done, and I think Legacy's also being worked on. But I digress. This will be a part of, even though this is part of 380 grade separation project, this is where the Collin County section starts. So from here westward, they'd follow pretty much a lot of this stuff here. They might have to relocate some of these businesses. I'm not 100% sure, but most of the stuff here should be fine. And then they're gonna build up 288 as a bypass route for 380 up to I-35. But as I said before, what they did is, with that teal route, where it would basically follow 428 and kind of just come around here and then branch off of here, go north of Aubrey, they would then make this go, like, instead of coming down to 288, this would just follow straight west up to about this area south of Sanger, where the new outer loop would merge back on, would connect to I-35. Now, with both feasibility studies complete, the Collin County section was then split into 5 corridors. The Frisco Prosper corridor, which we'll talk about next week, is from Championship Drive to Coit. The McKinney bypass became its own corridor. Then the Princeton bypass would be its own corridor. The Farmersville corridor would have its own thing. And then the Spur 399 extension became its own corridor. Now, as of right now, all 5 corridors in Collin County have recently completed their environmental review. And as I've said before, we'll be going into each corridor in more detail. Now, in Denton County, the study was split into the Loop 288 corridor and then the rest of Highway 380. And the reason for that is just what they're going to do is they're going to work out the grade separation project first, because if they can alleviate traffic off of that, because it's already going to be built up to a 6-lane highway, eventually they'll add on frontage roads to US Highway 380 itself, and maybe ultimately build it out to 8 lanes. I don't know. But right now, they're working on the grade separation project in Denton County, and they're currently doing the working for they're currently doing the environmental review for the Loop 288 expansion for the 380 bypass. But with that, we are going to end the video here. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, where I introduce y'all the entirety of the US Highway 380 corridor, pretty much in Denton and Collin counties. If you liked what you guys just watched, leave a like and subscribe down below. If you don't want to miss any future videos, whether if it's any of our automotive, aviation, or mountain bike content, hit that bell icon so you're notified when each video drops at 8 a.m. Other than that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Peace.